Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this video was supposed to be a live. Oh my gosh, I tried to go live Sunday night. I posted it on Twitter, I posted it on Instagram, and I failed miraculously. So, for those of you that came over that were trying to help me, oh, thank you so much, and I am so sorry that this did not end up being the discussion that I wanted it to be with everyone. However, I'm not going to let the fact that I'm like an inept old man when it comes to technology stop me from actually talking about the topic at hand today, and that is the state of the film industry amongst COVID-19, the coronavirus, Rona, whatever you want to call it. So many of us have been hit hard individually. Entire industries have been shut down for at least the time being, including an industry I know all of us here on this channel hold near and dear to our hearts, and that is the film industry. Productions have been shut down, obviously. Theaters themselves have been shut down. So as we all navigate our way through this disaster, with very few options when it comes to entertainment and media even available to us at this point. We're looking to streaming, to video on demand, rentals to give us our movie fix. And in turn, without movie theaters at play, that leads us to the question, where do we go from here? What happens to the movie industry post COVID-19? Once we have the virus underhand and we have figured out a cure, we have figured out how to at least stop it or prevent it from spreading at such insane rates, how does the film industry bounce back? And more particularly, how does the movie theater industry bounce back? Let's go ahead and just take a look at how COVID-19 has completely wrecked the film industry. So we did have a couple of movies pretty early on change their date. They just moved out of the way, knew that this was coming on, and decided to get out in front of it early. The first real big case to take place was No Time to Die. The upcoming and final James Bond film starring Daniel Craig was supposed to be released here in April, and instead moved its release date back to November 25th, 2020. And then came a big announcement from Fast and Furious and their ninth installment being moved back an entire year to April 2021. They didn't even play around with 2020 dates. Plus, Peter Rabbit 2 also moved its date back from an Easter release date to August of 2020. Meanwhile, we also have countless other films that were supposed to be released throughout March, April, and even May at this point that were just moved indefinitely. The studios have not released a date, probably because they're waiting, just like the rest of us, feeling it out. When is this going to pass? How long is it going to go for? And what is the environment going to be once we all come out the other end? The big movies that have just been moved indefinitely include A Quiet Place 2, Mulan, The New Mutants, Antlers, we have Antebellum, Spiral, The Woman in the Window, Black Widow, and the most recently announced Minions film. The Rise of Gru was also delayed. Now, many were freaking out about The Rise of Gru being delayed because that wasn't set to come out until July of 2020. However, the circumstances around the latest from Illumination is a little bit different. These other films all moved out of the way. One, either because they were just nervous that their box office would take a hit, or two, literally all of the movie theaters in the country are shut down, and many countries worldwide have their theaters shut down right now. So they were forced to move. However, Illumination Studios was forced to delay The Rise of Gru due to the fact that, being in France, they have had to shut down their production company. So they are not able to work on the film and continue to get it ready for that release date, so it's been pushed back at this point indefinitely. However, two films have definitively just moved to home releases in lieu of going the theatrical route and delaying until who knows when. The big case that could be the most revolutionary is Trolls the World Tour, which is set to release on April 10th. The same day it was meant to be released into theaters, it will be available to rent in your home that day and will forego a theatrical release, at least as far as we've heard. The other film is the comedy The Lovebirds, which actually was acquired and sold off to Netflix with a release date still to be determined, thus also foregoing a theatrical release. However, the studio was able to actually send it off to Netflix and get some sort of compensation back for the release of the film. Now, Trolls is the one I think we are all going to be watching very intently. If Trolls the World Tour does very well and gets the studio a lot of money by going straight to rental, that may be a game changer in some sense of the word. The Lovebirds, we've actually seen this exact same studio do this before. I don't think that one necessarily is as much. But we have a lot of cases right now of video on demand releases hitting fast and hitting hard. And again, Trolls is going to be the only pure new release heading straight to your living room. However, the film industry has already been shaken, rocked, and have to adapt, as we've seen with really rushed video on demand releases. None more so alarming than Disney and Pixar putting Onward onto video on demand just 2 weeks after its theatrical debut. Not only that, in another 2 weeks after its video on demand release, it will become available on the streaming platform Disney Plus. An insanely unprecedented move, but they're not the only one. The Invisible Man, The Hunt, and Emma also all were released on the 20th of March for you to rent in your home. Birds of Prey, The Gentleman, The Way Back, Bloodshot, and Doolittle all will become available for video on demand starting March 24th. I Still Believe will be available on video on demand starting March 27th. And then finally, Sonic the Hedgehog and Bad Boys for Life will be released to video on demand starting March 31st. All of these films are 2020 releases into theaters that have been fast-track pushed so that people can watch them and see them from the comfort of their home as we all go through quarantine. However, it's an interesting play as we continue this ever-evolving landscape of film. Many have argued for years that the theatrical experience was seeing some big declines, that nobody was wanting to pay the prices to deal with the service and go out to movie theaters any longer. Things such as Netflix and other streaming devices were taking over as the predominant way of viewing film. Others, such as myself, never bought into that and don't believe that to be the case then and hope that it will not be the case moving forward. But this is going to serve as quite the experiment for the film industry at large, and studios are going to have to reevaluate how they release cinema. Moving something like Pixar's Onward up to a streaming service, just a monthly fee streaming service, pretty much within a single month of its theatrical release, is insane. And honestly, that's the one that most causes worry for me. However, we have to look at the box office. This is an unprecedented situation in the film industry. Even when we take into consideration something like the Great Depression, there was not this many films at stake. They were not hit in quite the same way. And when you look at the box office the weekend before theater chains just shut down, it was dire, and it painted the perfect picture of why films like Onward and The Hunt and Invisible Man just fast-tracked straight to video on demand. The smallest drop in the entire top 10 was 61%, which is horrible for any movie on any weekend, and that was the best it got. So will these movies be able to recoup their funds? Will we get reporting back from the studios on how much money they have made through these rentals that are happening, or, in the case of Disney, the purchases that have taken place through video-on-demand services? However, not all studios are caving in and giving into the video-on-demand release schedule when it comes to quarantining. We already mentioned so many films that have just taken the route of being delayed, further details to come. However, we also heard straight from A24 that they were not going to go the video on demand route for their film First Cow, as well as their other cinema, saying they are committed to the theatrical experience and will release it once we are able to experience these films in theaters as they were intended. Warner Brothers was also met with a large rumor that Wonder Woman 84 was being considered to release straight to streaming. Thankfully, they came out and nipped that right in the bud, saying, nope, there is no plan for Wonder Woman 84 coming to streaming. It will be released as intended for a theatrical experience. So, how does this change the film industry? Well, how are theater chains going to be able to bounce back? Some theater chains were really optimistic, with Harkins Theaters saying, hey, we're going to be closed through the end of March and we'll reevaluate. It may open in April. Regal basically left themselves wide open, saying we'll evaluate the situation and update as it goes, with AMC giving possibly the most dramatic of all estimates, anticipating being closed from 6 to 12 weeks. Alamo Drafthouse also sent out their email closing down their theaters. But these are just the big chains giving their estimates, chains that at least have some sort of financial capital to give it a go when all of this is said and done, to open back up, hope we have a nice strong weekend to start, and see what happens. All these independent theaters, your 3-4 theater houses, all of the independent chains such as the Landmark chain, unfortunately, it's a reality that many of these theaters just won't have the capital to reopen after all is said and done. They rely heavily on the independent films and don't get the big budget blockbusters into their locations. So one, the independent films need to be ready. Two, the distributors of those independent films, often who are small companies themselves, have to have the resources to get those distributed out, marketed, and released. And then three, the independent theaters themselves have to have the capita and wherewithal, the actual ability to reopen their doors and see some business as usual once this all is all said and done. Much like the restaurant industry, with so many independent restaurants looking like this might be the end of the road. As for the large chain theaters, what we can hope is that they're able to open their doors before June, before the big summer blockbuster season really kicks into swing. I personally think it would be a wonderful thing if Wonder Woman 84 actually was the first big blockbuster to release into theaters, because honestly, I think it would be good for the film itself as well as good for the film industry to have a big weekend to start off with. However, that's also a risky move. Warner Brothers has not said whether they are keeping Wonder Woman 84 on the current release schedule, where it is basically the first movie of June. But we also have to look at just the huge recession that the country and the world as a whole are going to be going through. I'm one of those people. Many of us have been laid off of our jobs temporarily until business returns to usual, and funds are going to be very low, very strict, and limited, with many people having to forego paying things like rent and utilities while the coronavirus is a pandemic. Going to the movies once we're all past this, unfortunately, isn't going to be very high on a lot of people's lists. And especially when you consider millions just won't be able to afford the trip. What do you do if you're Warner Brothers? I don't know. It's a really sticky situation, and I don't envy any of these movie executives right now. Even the big studios are really feeling the bleed, and it's a possibility that these studios might just go under as well if they cannot find a way to turn some sort of profit amongst this madness, at least stay afloat. So I'm honestly not sure where we go from here when it pertains to the film industry. I'm hopeful that we are able to bounce back, that movie theaters open their doors and get the business they need, because I personally hold the theatric experience near and dear, and I know so many others do as well. And the art and the films themselves are made for that experience, and it would just be a shame to see that go away anytime soon. I'm already struggling just in the self quarantine. But we'll see. We'll see how the recession hits America. We'll see how these video on demand releases do for the studios. And we'll definitely be watching for those Trolls World Tour numbers once it comes out on April 10th. So those are kind of my discussion points, my talking points on the current state of the film industry, and just kind of opening the doors for a greater discussion with you all. What do you think is going to happen to the film industry? What do you think is going to happen to the movie theater going experience once we are all said and done with the coronavirus? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below, including what you think of all these VOD releases. If you personally would like to see that trend continue on even once we are past corona, if you don't like it even in these times of quarantine, or if you think it's a necessary means to an end but one that needs to go away once theaters are able to open again. Also, how do you think the movie theater business is going to bounce back, and the film industry at large? Let me know either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. If you like this video, hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on my latest videos. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!